Judas and Jesus all had dinner.
Judah, baby.
Judah, don't say.
My father said me.
My butter. My father's gonna kill me, man.
Low, low, low.
If I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. If I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. But out of my toes, my little black baby grows, and that's my fact. Well, if I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in China, if I lived in China, Well, out of my ears, my little black baby hears, and that's my fact. Now, if I lived in Russia, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in Prussia, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in India, they'd still be Chinese children. And out of my toes, my little blue baby grows, and that's another fact. Now, if I lived in Ireland, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in Ireland, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in Spainland, they'd still be Chinese children. And if I lived in Greeceland, they'd still be Chinese children. But out of my thumbs, my little red baby runs, and that's another fact, an unchanging fact. Now, if I lived in my land, which I do, I'd still have Chinese children. And if I lived in Iceland, I'd still have Chinese children. Well, if I lived in Greenland, I'd still have Chinese children. But out of my ears, my little gray baby hears, and that's my right. Well, if I lived in Thailand, I'd have some Chinese children. And if I lived in Japan, I'd still have Chinese children. Well, if I lived in this land, or if I lived in that land, And up from my lungs and standing on my tongue, my little blue baby son. Yeah, if I lived in